been a part of a lot of Zooms, but I've never presented on a Zoom before. So I am going to share my screen with you. I have a little PowerPoint. It's really quick, and then we have plenty of time for questions at the end. So do that. Okay, so here we go. Again, just talking about the common myths and facts surrounding the COVID-19 vaccines. So the first myth is that the COVID-19 vaccines are unsafe because they were developed so quickly. And I know this was a concern for a lot of people, but studies have proven that the vaccines are indeed safe and effective. Vaccine development and clinical trials were very thorough, and it was streamlined for maximum efficiency through an unprecedented worldwide collaboration. As you can imagine, everybody was really working together to get to the point we're at now, and they did not skip any steps in the process. There were animal studies, there were phase 1 and 2 and 3. So they did all of the steps along the way and submitted to the FDA and were granted emergency use authorization. So we have 2 current vaccines, as I'm sure you know, and they are both mRNA or messenger RNA vaccines. And messenger RNA is nothing new, even though they are new to us. They have been studied for many years. They've been studied in diseases like Zika virus, rabies, and cytomegalovirus, just to name a few. The second common myth is that COVID-19 vaccines will alter my DNA. The fact is that the 2 currently granted, or 2 current vaccines that have been granted EUA in the United States contain messenger RNA. And messenger RNA never enters the nucleus of our cells where our DNA is kept, so it therefore cannot affect our DNA. What they do is they provide a little set of instructions or a pattern for our cells. And our cells use that to make the spike protein that's found on the novel coronavirus. And when our bodies recognize that protein, they start to build an immune response. And then our bodies just discard that pattern. So they don't even hang on to it. It's very short-lived in the body. Myth number 3, the COVID-19 vaccines have severe side effects. And fact is that side effects are similar to those of other vaccines. Most commonly reported in study participants were injection site reactions, fever, muscle pain, chills, and headache. And while these side effects are unpleasant, it is a sign that your body is responding properly to create immunity. And so if you have less side effects, though, it doesn't mean that your body isn't doing what it's supposed to do. So some people are just different. Some have a lot of side effects and some have very little. I know my parents got both of their doses and they had basically nothing. I felt like I got hit by a truck. So, it just varies amongst people. There have been cases of severe allergic reactions or anaphylaxis. Thankfully, those cases have been manageable. They do recommend a 15 to 30 minute observation period post-vaccination just to make sure you're not having one of those reactions. The fourth common myth is that one vaccine is better than the other. And the fact is that both the Moderna and the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines are very safe and effective. After 2 doses, the Pfizer vaccine was 95% effective and Moderna was 94% effective in preventing symptomatic COVID infection. Side effect profiles are virtually the same, and we like to say that the best vaccine is the one that you can get. Myth number 5, the COVID-19 vaccines include a tracking device. This is a very common one, and the fact is they don't. And I think this conspiracy theory started because there are some manufacturers who do put microchips on their syringe labels or on their labels for the vials. And that's so you can scan them and track where the product's from, all that good stuff. And these vaccines don't even come in a syringe, so it's not like we could put a little microchip in the syringe and inject it into people. It's a multi-dose vial. So you would see little microchips floating around in there, and there's nothing in there. So no microchips, no tracking devices. Myth number 6, the COVID-19 vaccines contain fetal cells. The fact is that fetal cells were not used in the design, development, or production of the currently authorized vaccines. Now, again, I think this one started with, there are some vaccines that do use fetal cells in the design portion. They are never injected into people. It's a part of the development process, and they are not fetal cells from abortions that have happened currently. These are cells that I don't know how they got them, from aborted tissue back in the 60s and 70s, and they're actually called immortal cell lines. They keep these cell lines growing, and they do use them in the development of various drugs and vaccines, but not these. Myth number 7, if I've already had COVID, I don't need to get vaccinated. Vaccination is still recommended even if you've been infected. For one reason, we don't know how long you're protected after you've had a natural occurring infection. Some say 90 days, some say longer, but since we don't know, we do still recommend vaccination for these people. And vaccination does provide a more robust immune response that's likely to last longer than natural infection. Vaccines induce what they call memory T cells and B cells, and so therefore it's going to give your body some memory that you might not get from natural infection. There is one caveat here, and if you have residents or anybody who has received monoclonal antibody treatment for COVID, it is recommended to wait at least 90 days before getting the vaccine so that those antibodies don't interfere with what your own body is trying to do. Myth number 8, I'm not at risk for severe complications of COVID, so I don't need the vaccine. The fact is that COVID-19 infection is unpredictable, and we just don't know who is going to have a severe complication, and so therefore we do recommend vaccination. Myth number 9, I will get COVID from the vaccine. The vaccines do not contain live virus and therefore cannot cause COVID infection, so it's not possible to get COVID from the vaccine. Myth number 10, getting the vaccine will cause me to test positive for COVID-19. Fact, the viral tests used to diagnose COVID check for the presence of the virus, and since the vaccines do not contain live virus, your test results will not be affected. Now, it is important to note that you can become infected during the time before the vaccine becomes fully active in your body. So full protection occurs about 2 weeks after the second dose. So you could be infected before you get your first dose. You could become infected between getting the 2 doses. So if you do get a positive test, it's still important to follow all of the guidelines of quarantine and all of that. They did just release some recommendations about people who have been fully vaccinated as far as if you get exposed to someone who has COVID, and they're saying that you don't even have to quarantine if you are 2 weeks past your vaccine dose. So that's good news. Myth number 11, women who are pregnant or breastfeeding should not get vaccinated. Now, I know this doesn't relate to your residents, but I figured you're probably getting some information for yourselves here today too, or for your friends and family. So the fact is that the CDC Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices says that women who are pregnant or breastfeeding may choose to get vaccinated. They do recommend that these women consult with their physicians to help them make the decision that's best for them. And then this is myth number 12, the COVID-19 vaccines cause infertility in women. There is no evidence to support this theory. Again, this one is something that there is a tiny grain of truth to it that a lot of anti-vaxxers like to take and run with. So why this came about, we think, is because there is a protein formed by the human body to make placenta that looks similar to the spike protein on the coronavirus vaccine. So the thought behind it is that if we're producing antibodies to the spike protein and this placental protein looks similar, that our bodies might also attack that protein, but there is no evidence, again, to support that. Myth number 13, after vaccination, I do not need to wear a mask or practice social distancing. I wish this were true. But until more people are fully vaccinated, we do still need to keep wearing our masks, keep hand washing, keep social distancing. I think Paula kind of mentioned this earlier about herd immunity, and we don't know exactly at what point we'll reach that. Is it 50%? Is it 70%? You know, hopefully we will know this sooner rather than later. We are already seeing numbers going down a lot post the start of vaccinating. So I'm hoping that pretty soon they'll say, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear your mask anymore. That would be great news. And the reason for this is that the endpoint of the studies was not about disease transmission. It was about prevention of severe disease. So it is still unknown that if you can become infected with COVID, even though you're vaccinated, and pass it along to others. They are studying this, and hopefully we'll get some data very soon to know if that's the case. Myth number 14, and this was mentioned early on too, vaccination will be mandatory. And you're right, they cannot require vaccination while the vaccines are under the emergency use authorization. Once they do become fully approved though, businesses and schools could choose to require vaccination. And that's going to be, you know, a case-by-case basis, but no government mandates are anticipated. And finally, myth number 15, there is a fee for COVID-19 vaccines. And this is not true. There are no out-of-pocket costs for the vaccine. Now, when you come to one of our test sites, you may be asked to present your insurance card so that we can collect an administration fee from the insurance company. And some doctors' offices may charge for an office visit, but the vaccine itself has no fee associated, and you should never be asked to pay out of pocket. Just a quick list of references, and I can share these with you. It's just a selection of articles. And then, like I said, I left plenty of time for questions. So
that was great. That was really informative. I like, because some of those myths are just crazy.
And they are.
With the new recommendation not to quarantine after exposure, did they have any stipulations on that? Like you must be masked during the exposure?
No, the recommendations are just that as long as you're fully vaccinated, so that means 2 weeks past your second dose of vaccine, and you're within 3 months of that. So they're still not giving us a lot of extra time, but if you're fully vaccinated and within 3 months you have an exposure, you're good to go. Of course, masking, hand washing, social distancing are still recommended in general anyway, but it doesn't change anything about the need to quarantine.
Karen, I've heard some people express concern over the vaccine, saying, you know, this is a new vaccine, and how do I know, you know, long-term effects and things. But then I was at a meeting where they said they've been working on a coronavirus vaccine for a long time. It's just this strain. I mean, can you?
I know it's confusing. Not coronavirus specifically. I mean, you may have heard they're working on a common cold vaccine. Well, that hasn't been possible. Your body has to be able to form an immune response for them to develop a vaccine to something. And we don't get a long-term immune response to common cold. There are too many changes in those viruses all the time. And I know you're hearing about variants in the news to this virus, but that it's not changing as much as the viruses that cause the common cold. So also like HIV, you've heard they're trying to develop a vaccine against HIV, but again, our bodies don't mount a good enough immune response to HIV for us to do a vaccine. So I kind of lost my train of thought here, but yeah, so the vaccines are, I'm sorry, can you ask the question one more time?
Yeah, some people are concerned that it's a new vaccine, and how do we know long-term, you know, that we're not
long-term effects. Okay, I'm sorry, that's right.
No.
So vaccines in general, you will see the side effects within the first 60 days. So we've had vaccines around for so many years, and we know that you don't, we've never seen any kind of long-term effect from a vaccine past like the 60-day mark. So that's why we really shouldn't be overly concerned with long-term effects.
Okay, and so
I'm sorry. I was going to say, and also with the mRNA specifically, like I said, it lasts a very short time in your body. They kind of call it the Snapchat of vaccines. It's there and then it's gone. Your body gets rid of it. So it doesn't even hang around for a really long time.
thank you.
Yeah, and I saw somebody asked in the chat about variants. So variants, the news likes to blow everything up. Variants are very common. This is what viruses do. So viruses make copies of themselves, and a variant is when the copy has an error in it. And then that copy keeps getting made with the error in it. So that's what a variant is. They make little changes. And sometimes those are beneficial to the virus, and sometimes they're actually bad for the virus and it dies off. So variants are very normal and very common. And expected. So if we didn't see any variants, I would be very shocked. But the good news is that so far, what they've studied with the vaccines, the variants may make some small adjustments down in the efficacy for these vaccines, but the changes aren't great enough to make there's no vaccine escape at this point. The vaccines are still effective. They may be slightly less effective. Again, studies are ongoing, so I don't have exact numbers, but yeah, the vaccines are still good.
I would say, but the fact that this is the highest percentage in any vaccine, I think, ever.
Yes.
Before 95% is unheard of. I mean, even the flu shot is what, 50 or something like that?
Yeah, less than that. Flu shots usually like 30 to 40%. And we have to remember that the standard for these vaccines, when they were still in development, the FDA said they wouldn't consider anything with less than 50% efficacy. So when these came out and it was 94 and 95, we were like, heck yeah, this is awesome. So to see it go down a little bit, and again, we don't have numbers yet, but even if it went down 15%, we'd still be at 80% efficacy, which is really good and well above the standard that was set. So things are looking very good.
Nice.
I have a question.
Sure.
I also learned that Johnson & Johnson has a vaccine coming that's a 1 dose that's going to be less effective than the 2 that we have. Can you talk about that a little bit?
That is true. I don't have a lot of good data on the Johnson & Johnson since it hasn't gone to the FDA yet, so I don't have their data sheet yet, but I've seen the same headlines that you've seen, and I've done some of my own research. The total efficacy for the Johnson & Johnson was 66%. Now, it had different markers than the Moderna and the Pfizer. The Moderna and the Pfizer were testing symptomatic COVID. So they just said symptomatic COVID. And so they were 94 to 95% effective in preventing symptomatic COVID. The Johnson & Johnson marker was a little different. They said 66% overall it prevented disease. I believe it was 85% effective in preventing severe disease. And actually, they're even saying 100% in preventing hospitalizations amongst their study participants. So you're seeing a wide variety of things, and that's because the government doesn't say you have to test for this. They set their own standard, and so that's where the Johnson & Johnson fell. It is exciting that it is a 1 dose. They are also testing a 2-dose series, so we're going to get some data on that soon. And it also only requires regular refrigeration, which will be fantastic, especially for the rest of the world. I mean, we are lucky. We have ultra low freezers and regular pharmaceutical grade freezers and refrigerators, but not every place has that. So the fact that this is just a standard refrigeration is really good.
Any other questions? All right, well, Karen, thank you so much. I mean, I see the comments in the chat. I mean, everyone it was such a great talk and so informative. So thank you
Good.
you very
And
much for
if
being
you
here.
ever need anything, you can always reach out to me with questions, shoot me an email or whatever. I'm happy to do the best I can. Science is always evolving. So, but I will provide you the best information that I can get for you.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Great job.
Okay, I know we're running a little over. It's been such a good meeting. I'm excited, but Michelle, do you want to call the raffle winner? Or do you want me to do it for today?
You know what? I didn't know that I was doing it, so I didn't pull it up yet.
No, I can do it then.
Okay.
Streisand, are you there? I see, I know she's still on. I can follow up with her. Streisand won the basket from Heather, so I'll follow up.
Very
I'll
nice.
drop it directly to her.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, guys, so I will send you the chat, other communications we might have, and any announcements anyone has, or we can also post, we're posting events and flyers on the website as well. So if you have questions about that, let me know. But Devin, you always have a bunch of stuff going on. You have anything going on you want to announce?
Well, I guess I will announce that unfortunately, this is probably going to be my last GSPN meeting for the foreseeable future because I'm leaving Discovery as of March 5th.
Ah, where are you going?
I'm going to join Thrive Skilled Pediatric Care. So I'm going to run their office in Marietta. So, I'm so grateful for all of the work that all of you do every day and your, support and partnership over the year and a half that I've been here. In particular, Paula, Jerry, Jennifer, thank you all so much. So, that being said, if moving forward, anybody comes across any pediatric patients needing assistance, who to call. I know I'm making a 180 here, and if anyone needs anything over the next 2 weeks, feel free to reach out. But I'm really excited for the growth that this group is gonna have, with this new leadership. So thank you all.
Thanks, Devin. And make sure that somebody represents Discovery Village. So I'm hoping you'll pass the word on.
Yeah, I'll definitely leave, some, because I don't think that they're going to get somebody before I go.
Okay.
So, but, I'll make sure that people who are still here know to make this a priority.
Terrific.
But also, if anyone knows anyone who's looking, they are interviewing for this position. If anyone is looking for an external marketing type role in senior living, let them know.
Great.
Well, Devin, it's been a pleasure, and you've done great things over there. So Thrive is lucky to have you. So I wish you much luck and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I just have, if any of you could follow GSPN on Facebook, that would be awesome. We would love to grow our online presence. So I think that'd be great. Just tell anybody that you know to follow GSPN.
Yeah, and please invite somebody. We are looking to grow, and like I said, we're going to do good things and networking, and so yeah, please, guests are welcome. So I think that's it. Our next meeting is March 17th, and if you are interested in being the GSPN speaker that month and doing a raffle, let me know. And I hope you all have a great rest of the week.
Thanks again, Karen. Bye, everyone.
Yes, bye.
Karen, thank you.
Thank you, Karen.